a private funeral marked the final chapter of one of America's most painful and politically charged family stories. When Tatiana Celia Kennedy Schlossberg was laid to rest, it happened quietly, away from cameras, without public notice, and behind closed doors. But the silence itself spoke volumes. One person was deliberately excluded from saying goodbye: Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the sitting U.S. Secretary of Health and Human Services, and her own cousin. What should have been a moment of family mourning became a final act of resistance. To understand why a funeral became a statement, you have to understand the woman at the center of it. Tatiana Kennedy Schlossberg was born on May 5, 1990, at New York Hospital, into one of the most famous families in American history. She was the granddaughter of President John F. Kennedy and Jacqueline Kennedy Onassis, but the Kennedy legacy never defined her. Raised by Caroline Kennedy and designer Edwin Schlossberg, Tatiana grew up on Manhattan's Upper East Side, spending summers at the family estate on Martha's Vineyard. Unlike many Kennedys before her, Tatiana avoided politics. She attended the Brearley School, Trinity School, and later Yale University, where she studied history and became editor-in-chief of the Yale Herald. It was at Yale that she met George Moran, a medical student who would later become her husband. She went on to earn a master's degree at Oxford University, then chose an unexpected path: environmental journalism. Tatiana wrote for the New York Times, The Atlantic, The Washington Post, Vanity Fair, and Bloomberg News. In 2019, she published her book, Inconspicuous Consumption, exploring the hidden environmental costs of everyday life. The book won the Rachel Carson Environment Book Award, and praise poured in from figures like Al Gore, who highlighted her ability to make complex science accessible and urgent. She built a career entirely separate from Kennedy politics. In September 2017, Tatiana married George Moran on Martha's Vineyard. In 2022, they welcomed a son, Edwin. By all accounts, life was full and hopeful. Then, in May 2024, just after giving birth to their daughter Josephine, everything changed. A routine blood test revealed a white blood cell count of 131,000. The diagnosis was swift and devastating: acute myeloid leukemia, with a rare and aggressive mutation known as inversion 3. Tatiana began intensive chemotherapy at Columbia Presbyterian Hospital. She suffered a postpartum hemorrhage and later underwent a bone marrow transplant. Her sister Rose Kennedy Schlossberg was a match and donated stem cells. For a brief moment, remission followed. But the cancer returned. A second transplant came from an anonymous donor from the Pacific Northwest, followed by clinical trials and CAR-T cell therapy. None worked. By January 2025, doctors told her she might have a year to live. As Tatiana fought for her life, another battle was unfolding. Her cousin, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., had been confirmed as Secretary of Health and Human Services after dropping out of the presidential race and endorsing Donald Trump. Just days before his confirmation, Caroline Kennedy sent a blistering letter to the U.S. Senate, calling him dangerous, reckless, and unfit for the role. The warnings were ignored. From her hospital bed, Tatiana decided to speak. On November 22, 2025, the anniversary of her grandfather's assassination, she published an essay in The New Yorker titled "A Battle with My Blood." In it, she wrote about dying young, about her children who would barely remember her, and about the terror of relying on a healthcare system she believed her cousin was actively undermining. She criticized cuts to NIH funding, reductions in mRNA research, and attacks on medications she herself had needed to survive. The essay went viral within hours. Her brother, Jack Schlossberg, shared it on Instagram, writing simply, "Life is short. Let it rip." Tatiana lived just 38 days longer. On December 30th, 2025, the John F. Kennedy Library Foundation announced her death. She was 35 years old. The funeral was private. No location was disclosed. No press was allowed, and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. was not invited. The decision was intentional. Family members said they wanted to protect Tatiana's children and grieve without controversy. In excluding him, they made their final statement. Tatiana Kennedy Schlossberg did not want to be remembered as a Kennedy or as a patient. She wanted to be remembered as a writer who cared about the planet, a mother who loved her children, and a woman who used her last words to tell the truth. The funeral remained unseen, but her words remain, and they will last far longer than the silence that followed.